What's up you guys, it's 2bricks, and finally I have here the actual factual finished version of the Fondor with instructions complete, ready for you guys to download. So check out the link down in the description to my Rubricable page where you will find PDF instructions for this set, as well as a parts list that you can upload to your favorite third-party brick seller so you can buy all the bricks that you need. And in this video, I just wanted to go over some of the changes that I made, because whenever I'm making instructions, I do try to change things in terms of improvements for efficiency, for strength, and other things that jump out at me whilst I'm disassembling and reassembling the model. Oftentimes things do pop out at me. So I want to take you through a quick list of the changes that I made, just so that no one is surprised that, buys the instructions and sees that things are a little different than they remember from the video. No, you're not crazy. That is just a matter of that process. So also in this video, I want to show you a secondary build for the model, which unfortunately does not rely on this cockpit piece right here. And the reason for that is that the estimated total cost for the parts, at least according to Rubricable, for this whole set is $277 US at the time of recording. Of course, prices and things fluctuate depending on the availability of certain parts and inflation, etc., etc. But $40 of that estimate goes into this single Razor Crest cockpit piece right here. And that's obviously going to be a huge issue for some people who just simply are not willing to pay $40 for a single piece of plastic. So I understand that. Of course, it is a very nice piece of plastic. It's well molded and well printed and looks great, and it's undeniably the perfect piece for this usage. But yeah, it's a thing that we have to kind of work around. Scalpers and other people who sell things for highly inflated prices on the third-party kind of market there drive up the price, and that's a real shame. So I'm going to be showing you guys the alternate build that does not rely on this cockpit piece, and then also, like I said, a list of the changes that I made, kind of just quickly going through and showing you guys all of that stuff. So let's dive in and take a look at the updated, improved Fondor now with instructions. Here we go. So the very first change that I made is that I took this out of the back section here and I removed it from the model, because I'm going to be doing a free Let's Build video for this, and a tutorial on how to build it, and a parts list will be available separately, so that if you're just interested in the ship and you don't want the additional speeder bike, it'll save you maybe $1 or $2. That's something that you can do. That's an option for you. So since this is such a simple, fun little build, I just thought a Let's Build would be appropriate for this, and that's where that will be. So look out for that. If it's not out already, it will be out very, very soon. So then the next thing that I changed was the little kind of back stabilizer fins here. They looked a lot more prominent to me than what I had what I had indicated in the model when I was looking at additional reference and things. And also it has this kind of curved cutouts slot, kind of, oh, not slot, this shape to the back where it's curving, tapering backwards like that. So I wanted to just redesign those. Previously they were just a two-part build using a couple of panel pieces in there, and I just rebuilt that to be more accurate to the source material. So they're a little bit more prominent and they have that nice curvature to them, which I really like. The next thing that I did was, I've changed a couple of pieces throughout here, like adding in these little slopes to just taper the wings back nicely in this sort of back section here, but mainly this is all unchanged. But what I've done is I've changed the way that these are attached. And what I've done here is, you can see I've added a couple of additional struts. So on the side here and here, previously there was just this support beam in the middle, and then the whole thing just hinged around a singular attachment point here with two Technic pins that were holding it in place. So I've added these braces along the side here, which I think don't look too bad at all. I think I'm pretty happy with the look. And what that does as a function there is to give it a lot more support and a lot more friction in this movement right here, and it keeps it a lot more rigid in terms of holding it in place when you're just swishing it around. So it doesn't move at all. Like, it has zero kind of flex in it now, which is really nice. But the functionality is unchanged, with the ability to rotate the wings up and down and all that good stuff. It just works a lot better now. And as a bonus, I was able to get in these nice rounded details here to kind of show there's this kind of a cylindrical engine portion that sticks out of the side of the ship that I wasn't really happy with. Didn't feel like I was really capturing that look in the final thing there. So this is something that enabled me to add that on, and I think it worked out really great. So kind of a win-win situation there. Yeah, that I think works out really well. Oh, the cannon is not gone. I've just placed it away inside of the ship. I wanted to make sure that there was a section inside of the ship that I could store the cannon when it's not in use, because it is designed to be a removable element. So I was just putting that in the front there to test it out. The cannon has not been excised from the design. So there you go. So I made a change to this whole section right here, where previously what I didn't realize was that the attachment point for the front of this beam that runs along the side here that supports the side structure, this beam was actually bent, curving upwards. Didn't realize that. This was actually a plate higher here than it was in the back, and I realized that once I translated it into the digital building, into a studio, where it didn't line up, and I was like, oh, something has gone awry. So what I did was I fixed that, I re-leveled it out, and what that created was a new gap under here for one side, since it was kind of out of alignment. So I've just added a plate worth of thickness under here that just slightly changes the angle of this main spine, which this attaches to, and that has evened out the gap, and once again made it nice and flush and level and gap-free along the side of this panel right here. So really happy with that. I think obviously anytime that you're stressing the parts by accidentally introducing bend and bow and flex into the parts by doing stuff like that, obviously it's good to try to eliminate that as much as possible. So that's what I've done here. And then when you lift the lid, you can see that there is a change that I've made onto the interior here, which is that I've made this area much, much nicer in the way that it is finished off. And all that I basically did is mirror this little kind of wall build over to the other side here. And then I changed the interior of this removable section to have a little bit of an indication of a doorway through here, whereas previously, like you see on the other side here, it was just flat, and it was just these curved slopes that went all the way down the side. So now I've cut this little notch into it, which allows for a much, much nicer looking doorway into the, towards the boarding ramp and towards the cockpit. And a minifigure can much more convincingly, it still would have to bend, the minifigure would still have to bend their head to get down in there a little bit, but I think it's much, much more convincing than previously when it came down to, their shoulder height. And it just didn't look like a very usable space at all. I also removed the wrench just from the instructions because it's something that I felt was an optional kind of add-on that didn't really give much value, and I thought that, if we're trying to save money here on the instructions, if you want to add your own accessories, wrench, spanner, gun, whatever it is, you can go ahead and add that in there. I don't think that's a crucial part of the build. So yeah, that was that, and I just think this looks so much nicer than it did before, and it makes this whole area feel really complete and very playable, much more so than it did previously. So very happy about that. The next change that I made is to Luthen's wig station, which is back here. Previously, the chest of drawers, like the actual piece that holds the drawers in place, I had used a sand blue colored piece because I just thought it looked nice and it kind of matched the aesthetic of the interior of Luthen's ship. However, that piece is insanely expensive when compared to the same exact piece in light bluish gray, so I made that, switched that out. And I've also switched out the wig piece to a different one because I built myself, I just wanted to see how a Luthen, antique shop owner costume would feel with the wig that I chose. And I didn't feel like it was really, really capturing the look on screen, particularly that little swoop of hair that just gives Luthen this very mischievous look to him that I just felt like was perfectly captured by this hairpiece. So I just switched out the hairpiece that I'm using for that one, and the cost is not much higher. So I think it's fine. And in fact, I think it might be the same price. I have to double check that, but oops, let me just place this in here. It is, as you can see, a little bit fiddly when you have adult-sized hands to get the wig in place, but there it is. And nothing else has really changed about the interior of this section other than, like I mentioned before, I mirrored this wall onto the other side, so this is a bit more filled in. It feels a bit more like a complete doorway. Most of this is largely unchanged, but I added in some transparent pieces under here, just so that when you're looking at it from this side, the illusion of that window going through and kind of filling out into this channel right here where you can see right out of the central part of the cockpit through this channel. I just wanted to have these transparent pieces under here to help to sell that illusion. So you can see back here these are all transparent bricks under here now that go down to the floor. So I think that works really well. And yeah, that's a good kind of, you know, it's a decent stab at approximating that, that kind of feature, I think. So there's that. I've also made a couple of shaping changes onto the underside here. So this section is now on the top and bottom. This has been brought forward, this kind of curved shape, which was previously much further back, which gave this a much flatter look on the underside when compared to the top. And I just wanted to even that out a little bit, so I brought this forward. And it has the added benefit of connecting this panel here to this front or central section here, which is making this all a lot more sturdy as well. And that really helps because you're grabbing this as the kind of playable surface, the place to grab the ship. And yeah, any extra stability there is always going to be welcome, and so I think that's a very positive change. And then a couple of other things that I added, like for example on the, sorry, just flipping this around, on these little panels that are attached underneath, these are hinged in from the back side with these Technic pins that just slot in here, and previously those were free to rotate up and down, where now I've just kind of pinched. There's a piece in here that's holding this in place and kind of pinches it in at the right angle so this won't move. And then I've done the same on the other side here, just using some additional, oh, well actually, sorry, these parts were in here as you see, and then I've just mirrored that over to the other side so that both are now held in place static where they should be. So that's a really good change, something that I think really helps improve the overall look and the functionality, because previously these would always get out of alignment and you have to manually rotate them so that they sit in the right spot. So now they just default to that on their own. So that's really nice. And there you go. So another thing that I added here is I made Luthen's little cane. This is not a part of the design, but it could be something you could put in the little accessories rack if you wanted to. It's very simple, obviously, 2 pieces, a lightsaber bar and a regular 3 long bar piece. And yeah, this is obviously a prop that was one of those things that had people speculating, is Luthen a secret Jedi, blah, 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 blah. Nope, he just has a cane that's really cool and he uses it to beat people sometimes. and there you go. So, so yeah, I just wanted to showcase that. It's in the video, so I didn't want anyone to be confused if that's going to be part of the ship or not. Nope, just a little fun accessory, something you can do on your own very easily. So the next change that I've made concerns the laser beam emitters here on the side. So I've added a little bit of an extra piece here, and it's on the other side. It's mirrored because the build is, there's 2 beams that go in channels side by side next to one another. I showed it to you before. But what I've tried to do is to stabilize the beams a little bit so that they don't, when they're out, they don't have the tendency to just move side to side like they did before, and then hopefully interfere with each other a lot less than they did. And having a little beam emitter as well is just a nice little bonus. Plus, they're tucked in there a little bit more kind of deeply than they were, so the red is not so noticeable when you're just using it as a regular ship and doesn't have the lasers deployed. I think that is a good decision, because it just means that it's just a little bit better camouflaged. And so let me see if I can push these in without activating the other one on the other side. Yes, they both went in and they didn't hit each other in the middle. So yeah, it's just something to kind of stabilize it and encourage them to pass freely instead of clunking in the middle like they used to, and also burying them in there a little bit deeper. And adding the laser emitter, I think, just helps with the realism. You can plausibly imagine the beams coming out of here, and also you can just not see these red parts as easily. So I think overall that's a really good change. And I think as well, just combining that with the improved look here for the engine, for the rounded edges here, I think is just a really big improvement in this area overall. I think this is probably the most improved section of the ship as far as I'm concerned. So there you go. Hopefully you guys get a kick out of that. All right, so I'm going to show you guys the alternate build that I talked about with the different cockpit piece. So we have this assembly right here, and we have this General Grievous's Starfighter cockpit piece, which is, I scoured all my different Star Wars cockpit pieces, and I do have a lot of them, and this was the only real compatible match. And it doesn't look as good. This is, in my mind, the perfect piece, and this is the definitive version of the ship, the way that I intended it to be. But this is a substitute for those who simply don't wish to pay $40 for a single piece of plastic, or if you're lucky, you can get it for maybe around 20. Or if you happen to have the set, you can just go ahead and steal it from your playset scale Razor Crest. It's up to you. But I did want to provide some kind of a plan B for those who are maybe scared off by that one piece, not wanting to build it. So you go ahead and you take off the whole cockpit corridor, and like you see here, you take off the cockpit piece, or you won't be adding it, but this is the part that that gets left behind, including this plate right here. And we add on this little piece right here to kind of extend the corridor forward, because obviously this windscreen piece is a lot shorter than the other one. The windscreen piece just sits on there on the two studs that are available, and then the cockpit tunnel goes back behind it, and there you go. You know, it's a windscreen. It works. It keeps the vacuum of space out, but I think in terms of the look overall, it's, you know, obviously a big step down visually. It's not as accurate in a bunch of different ways. It doesn't have the nice horizontal striping across it, and it just doesn't do the job as well as this guy does. But you know, it is a thing. So if that's something you guys are interested in, you know, as a cost-cutting measure, totally understandable. And I did also leave out the stud shooter, or sorry, not the stud shooters, the bolt shooter right here, the spring-loaded bolts, and also the spares from the side compartments. I left those out of this version as well. Again, just to save a couple of extra dollars, and leave out something that I think probably a lot of people, well, 50% of Star Wars LEGO fans probably don't really care about those to begin with, and so I thought that was a good place to trim the cost a little bit. But you know, you can still see out of this channel, you can still see through the window, you can still see Luthen in there. It works, it's just not as pretty. So there you go. There is the alternate design. A lot of people did ask on the previous video if there would be a plan B for this, and so I felt like I needed to provide some kind of a solution, and I think this is the best one. The cost for this particular piece on Bricklink is probably around $2 or $3, I think, and there's also a few different versions of it, I think including even some unprinted ones. So this is definitely a flexible solution for those of you who are looking for a flexible solution. So there you have it, guys. One of the coolest new starships in recent memory from the Star Wars galaxy can now be yours. The instructions are available. Check the link down in the Rebrickable page below. And even if you don't end up buying the instructions, leaving me a like or a comment is a great way to support the channel. And you can do that on Rebrickable too. You can leave a comment on the model, let folks know that you think it's a cool model, and then Rebrickable will know that I'm doing a good job over there as well. So that's something you can do, and it's much appreciated. So yeah, hopefully you guys got a kick out of the whole kind of design process of this and kind of seeing the updated tweaks. I do think that it works really, really well as a model, and I just think that as a playset, I would love to see this on shelves. I hope LEGO, you know, takes the cue, takes the inspiration, and goes ahead and creates a set for us based on the ship, because like I said, it's rad. And being able to get a cockpit piece that would fit this, that is an official LEGO cockpit piece that is designed for this set, would be amazing, and obviously would help to reduce the stress on the secondary market where this piece right here is concerned. So that would be also a very, very welcome thing for LEGO to do. So there we go. That's about going to do it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and man, that last video did really well, and I really appreciate all of the support. And for all of you new subscribers, I appreciate you sticking around. I have a lot more cool stuff coming up, including the Let's Build video for the Luthen speeder bike. So yeah, stick around, see what else I got cooking up, because there's a lot of stuff on the way. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one, and may the Force be with you.